to be convinced, but it'd be great to see something out of this King lineup.
Well, so far the graph's not really helping them out. It's a table versus a boulder here, Papa Smithy, and you were talking about rolling over them. I have a feeling that Snake might have it in them to do that, as you can see the win record actually not exactly what we'd be expecting here, as it's a 67% to 33, but that may actually go over towards that spring split, where the King lineup was in fact very different.
Looked like an ecstatic teardrop when I was looking at it there, because it's a big smile for the red teardrop, but somehow I don't know if those smiling faces will be on the King lineup.
I have a feeling, yes, it's the teardrop that's in fact smiling, the teardrop being Snake. But you can't speak too soon. Hopefully Name can find his footing, maybe find some synergy there with Sync Dream in the bottom lane. This sort of does feel to me like a bit of a conflicting personality situation down there. Of course, Name wanting to control a lane, Sync Dream wanting to do anything but control.
I mean, you could say that because, of course, Sync Dream loves to pack up and leave and show his aggression in other lanes, but Name has been trying to play as an aggressive laner. It's definitely not worked for him so far this split. Maybe if Sync Dream can get on the same page and they can both play aggressively, and we did see some aggression out of Tail and Sync Dream last split, maybe they can get something going in lane. Because, look, a lot of people are criticizing Name, definitely not living up to some of the big plaudits of the past, but his team is certainly not what it was in Edward Gaming in 2014.
Yeah.
And the synergy is still being built. His individual performance has been fine, but hopefully he will rise as his team rises as well.
Yeah, we'll see which ex-Edward Gaming player is going to take the victory here, as you is going to be taking on Name. There was a sort of storyline that I didn't quite manage to fit into my brain before this one came along. But, of course, we are into the bans, ladies and gentlemen. Callista and Hecarim are going to be removed from King. They don't want to see Crystal on that one. And Rek'Sai, Gragas, Huey getting a lot of focus.
I feel like Callista's more just a filler ban, because if we've watched, we've seen drafts where Snake had Callista available at first pick and either locked in the Hecarim or the Sivir or picked for the comp in general. Even Rek'Sai being prioritized over that champion. It feels like, at least at the start of the split, they're shedding this image of hyper carry, protect the hyper carry only, especially with Crystal, and just showing us different performance. Of course, at any point they could drop that, and then we could see a Draven or Calista locked in. But for now, it's been Sivir priority. And with Azir locked in, remember, Cassio is available. Use Cassio was abused by Pawn, if you'll remember, in that matchup against EDG. So maybe they're just banking on the fact that he's not confident to take Cassio into the Azir matchup.
Yeah, and I believe that it was an 11-1-6 Fizz performance in that game. Absolutely revolting when Pawn just said, okay, Bammy, step aside. It's time for me to have a go. And that second game went quite well for EDG, you have to think, against Snake. But they are going to lock in the Nautilus here for Ella, picking up their bottom lane straight away. As King thinking about the Lucian here for Name. That will be no stretch from his champion pool, and we'll see what Korn decides to pick up here, whether he's going to grab a jungler or whether it is just going to be Sync Dreams Morgana. Very, very standard stuff, and does like to be able to make some plays, and you can move around the map with a Morgana. You can use that Dark Binding to great effect, but see whether it is going to be happening. And Huey is actually going to lock away the Nunu. I
really like Nunu Azir, of course, well known as an excellent duo. Now you have two wonderful Blood Boil targets between the Azir in the mid lane and the Lucian as the potential hyper carry into the late game. Well, of course, build items, and Infinity Edge so excellent on that champion, just because like most AD carries that are right-click based, but with the passive being able to crit as well, just a one-item Infinity Edge, you get a bit lucky with the RNG. You can do huge trade damage with the Piercing Light.
Yeah, completely ridiculous stuff. Snake going to waste no time, though, picking up that Gnar away from Cola, as well as one of Flandre's more successful champions. Crystal,
the dream,
has stopped hovering Shaco. Oh, he's just trying to get us back into the debate of how to pronounce his name, which is something.
Shaco.
Is it? Is it really Papa Smithy? Because I like saying Shaco.
In this broadcast right now, it's Shaco.
All right. Well, unfortunately, it's not, because it's Sejuani. Name is considering picking up that Pantheon there for Huey. Bit of a shout-out to Clear Love there. But we'll see what is going to come through as Cola, considering the Smite teleport Fizz. And what's your take on this one, Papa Smithy?
See, I was a bit reluctant to kind of buy into it. We saw it last season, Zatai did good things with it, and then we saw the Smite adaptation, as you mentioned, with good old Amazing J from Edward Gaming.
The innovator himself.
The Cinderhulk into Trinity Force build, and then just completely threw out the window did Zatai, going for just the full tank Fizz. It was doing a lot of high burst damage. Against Gnar, that seems to be the matchup they've opted into. I don't know if I like it, but I still don't know enough about it. I'm still learning about what potentially full tank Fizz, let alone carry Fizz, can perform. Happy to leave lane, and with that percentage health damage, pick up camps like the Gromp very safely. And on the blue side, especially if he goes to the top lane and we don't see a lane swap, Gromp, an easy camp for Fizz to pick up.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. I did make a little bit of a mention that was slightly confusing about a likeness of Fizz to Lulu. Just the fact that Fizz does like to build a heck of a lot of cooldown reduction very early on was all I was really aiming for, making sure that you get to that 40% in a couple of items there with the Lucidity Boots and, of course, the Frozen Heart. That was what really impressed me out as a Tyres build, because he was so slippery in all of the fights, able to get right into the backline, and then he was super tanky as well.
Still wasn't a very good comparison, Alice.
Okay, yeah, good point. Look, I was trying to defend it 3 days later.
I gave you your soapbox. I gave you your soapbox. Like, you were just fuming like, I'll get them back. You didn't.
No. But look, I feel like I may have at least aimed for somewhat of a redemption. But it was a Kassadin locked in at the end there for Snake. They have a massive scaling lineup here with a whole lot of cluster team fight ability. As we go through the lineups here, Kohler is going to be taking Fizz into the Gnar. We saw that working out fantastically for Zatai. Did actually manage to get things done as far as that was concerned, but here in the jungle, this is where things are going to get exciting, because Huey's going to have a whole lot of control early on, and he might be able to prey on Beast, and we'll see whether Snake are going to do some sort of lane swap situation to try and avoid that.
Well, so far, the thing that we can say is that we're expecting Azir to have early lane control against the Kassadin. This matchup actually does get pretty good for Kassadin as the later levels come up. The Fizz is the big question mark. If Fizz can get lane control over Gnar, suddenly Nunu will have a lot of space to invade with two winning lanes. So I always look to the strength of the lanes when I work out whether a Nunu pick's going to work, because in terms of late game team fights, Nunu Azir, Nunu Lucian, excellent Blood Boil targets for Nunu.
Yeah, so the late game team fights might be working out. That's assuming that they will be able to get any free hitting off, what with the Gnar being massive there as well, with the huge stun, and of course the Glacial Prison there available from Sejuani. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get straight onto the Rift and see how it goes. And we're onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. King taking on Snake for our first game of the day as we zoom across
a wild ride.
Oh, it was wonderful.
A magical journey.
Oh, don't say it. I'm not casting LGD today, Papa Smithy. I'm very sad about it. No, but it will be fantastic. Hopefully PWL does pick up some Bard there, but that's the second last game of the night. Let's get straight into this one. She's going to be King taking on Snake, as Flandre and Cole are going to be shooting each other with stuff here in the river.
The thing that jumps out to me about these comps, it's almost a tale of two late games. King, their late game is definitely not what Snake's is, but they do have a late game Fizz, and even building full tank, I expect Fizz to be a complete handful for Flandre to deal with in, say, a split push situation. So 4-1 might actually be pretty decent for King. But opting into a late game against Sejuani, who we've already noted, hyper-scaling tank from the jungle. Against Kassadin, enough said, we all know about late-game Kassadin. Nerfs be damned, he's still basically the same champion, level 16 onwards with 3 items. And then the Sivir to force picks, going for what could potentially be a good split-pushing late game against hyper-scaling and hyper-engage options with the likes of the Sivir ultimate to boost the speed of already the very maneuverable Sejuani and Kassadin. Means it's a scary late game from Snake. So I want to see King get some snowballing done. Can you do that with a Nunu jungle? I guess the easiest thing to snowball for them will be these objectives. So they can get some really smart objective play in the early game. That's the best way for King to really set themselves up for what, at least on paper, looks like a difficult late game comp-wise.
Well, of course, King are going to be able to snowball irrespective. We'll see whether they can actually get themselves moving in this game. Of course, they do have a heck of a lot of soft CC, lots of slows and things like that, but are they lacking in the hard CC department? Just because the team fight from Snake is really looking just terrifying to deal with, just what with the amount of stuns that they have going on. But when you do have a Nunu, you've got lots of slow, but there is one of the hard CCs in that Dark Binding that King are already using here on the bottom side of the map. But is it going to be enough?
Well, it's why the last pick Kassadin's a bit of a masterstroke in the fact that there's not a lot of lockdown for him in team fights. So although you're opting into a later power spike, so they've got a slow scaling jungler, a slow scaling mid laner, Gnar is very powerful in the 1v1, even against an assassin like Fizz, should be able to win out in the early game. Sivir Nautilus is going to do very competitively in the bot lane. But the Kassadin, although about the late power spike exists, it's one of those games where if Kassadin gets going, everything about his team comp and the enemy team comp really powers him up to be a massive force in the late game. So I agree. Lack of hard CC, it benefits what is already a decent laning matchup. And of course, late game enough said for Kassadin.
Yeah, well, it's true. And You weathering the storm of this mid lane relatively effectively, down by about 6 CS, but this minion wave is crashing towards his turret. And Beast is able to take both of his buffs without too much of a hindrance from Huey there, who did take a bit of a sidestep to pick up the Rift Scuttler, but decided not to go for any invades.
And if people are wondering about the Cassian versus Azir matchup, it's not often that you say, okay, decent laning matchup for Cassian. I mean, the unique thing that Cassian has compared to, say, LeBlanc is that Riftwalk does take him over the Emperor's Divide, so he has more kill potential when it comes to actually getting on top of Azir. Poke trades with Azir, they're going to be super, super painful, but the all-in trades are possible with Cassian, even when Flash is down.
Yeah, well, see how it does go. Huey has picked up both of those Scuttlers now and is heading towards this mid lane, thinking about just a drive-by ice block to the face. But actually, Korn going in there with the E, forcing the flash early here. It's one of the most impactful Nunu ganks that I've seen in the early game.
Well, I mean, Huey walked in and missed the snowball, so let's not give too much credit. He missed the snowball.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Syncdream is going to use the Black Shield on himself, but still down to 200 health here in the bottom lane as that Dredgeline was doing some work here for Ella. He's struggling just a little bit. Snake looking pretty happy to have Crystal back on the lineup.
Cleanse definitely going to be a needed summoner spell in the late game to try and stop Sejuani. Nami's been getting nice damage trades onto Ella, but obviously just the Ricochet and Boomerang Blade has been hitting onto multiple targets because you can see the health bars from Name and Syncdream. They're getting poked out by Sejuani in these trades, so by Sivir in these trades.
Yeah, and of course, Crystal allowing Ella just to soak up as much damage as he likes, what with that Titan's Wrath as well, giving him that extra shield, extra ability to make these trades a little bit more worthwhile here for the Snake bottom lane. And just the pushing power of Sivir, she will always be relevant, even with that shorter range. Beast heading towards this top side of the map, trying to get something done, but Flandre pushed very far up.
It almost looks like he's looking for a counter gank. Perhaps they're thinking there will be a visit coming through from Nunu sometime soon. An aggressive gank, I don't really know how they're going to make it happen, but Beast shows, and it looks like they're just trying to push it in and give Flandre a bit of space to back.
Yeah, maybe grabbing just some time to get some items there. Cola's teleport is, of course, on cooldown here as Name going very aggressive here on the bottom lane. There's Syncdream with the flash into the binding. Crystal going to die for first blood. Of course, Syncdream, the bloodthirsty support that he is going to pick up that kill. And King off to a decent start.
It was actually a successful lane gank coming through from Huey. He walked straight through a ward in the river, but still, the spell shield was down. Nothing Crystal could do. I think the heal was after the ignite, so he didn't get the full value from that summoner. And nice moves from King. They're ahead on the scoreboard.
Yeah, probably weren't expecting Syncdream with the flash point-blank binding to the face. The sweet manly plays there, so able to capitalize on some surprise potentially from the Snake lineup. Early days still, of course. No gold lead to really talk about here as Cole is doing his very best to try and farm up, but he's definitely doing a good job here as it is ahead currently by about 7.
And even with the help pushing in, not being able to control the wave as he'd like, it's going to be a Hex Drinker first from Finder, so building for lane, going to be very useful, of course, and then the all-in trades come level 6 onwards from Fizz. Fizz with Smite winning in CS is a surprise against a ranged opponent where he basically has to use his only escape for wave clear. It looked like it would be a much tougher lane, but Cole's been making it work.
It certainly has. Huey heading up here as well. Blood boils the Fizz here just a little bit, looking to try and pull this one out, but look at the Gnar into the turret, and Huey takes about half of his health.
Yeah, Gnar ultimate used for some semblance of lane control, I hope. Maybe he's worried about the turret dive. Going to be much harder. Nunu, one of the best champions at turret diving. He can just chomp onto a golem, get that extra maximum health, and then take an extra turret shot. Not such a useful thing when you're at half health.
Yeah, not as great. So, of course, saving himself from the dive potentially is Flandre, utilizing the fact that he's in that Mega Gnar form as well. I mean, that Gnar doesn't have the hugest of cooldowns, so just using it because he can. Does sound like a bit of a Flandre thing to do. We are going to have a pause, ladies and gentlemen. We'll make sure that we get through this one as soon as possible. And right now, the players just getting themselves ready to gear up for what could be a potentially long game here, unless King can find something very early on before Snake managed to hit their stride with their comp.
It amuses me that King have found almost a mirror hyperscaling matchup from the top lane as they do from the jungle. And just to explain that fact, of course, Cinder, Hulk, Fizz, you're going to get some semblance of hyperscaling. It's hard to say how many health items you're going to build, but the 25% bonus health on every purchase is going to become a relevant statistic. And usually the price for that is to lose lane. You're taking Smite. It's not as useful in a lot of laning circumstances. So you expect them to be behind 10 or 15 CS. They might have to leave lane, pick up the Gromp or other jungle camps. In this case, it's stayed in lane, winning in CS. You're going to be able to go for a hyper-scaling build. It's almost winning in two senses, in fact, basically is. So that's a big factor for the Fizz to be ahead. The enemy side has the Sejuani that scales in a much similar fashion. So I thought inevitably Snake would win out in terms of scaling into the late game. And I still think they will in terms of team comp, but for the Fizz to win lane, that's kind of a variable I didn't consider. And it just shows the strength of this laning Fizz that without a combat summoner, able to get lane control over a Gnar, one of the strongest top laners in the league. Yeah,
and he's really exploded onto the scene as well. We've seen a few top laners now picking up this Fizz. Does seem to be off the back of Amazing J playing it. Amazing J just tends to start things that people want to continue. Of course, talking about I believe it was Teleport Ignite Hecarim was an Amazing J thing towards the beginning.
An Amazing J special.
Yeah, Amazing J special. At least in the LPL. Don't want to say that it was in every single region because, of course, we don't cast every single region. We're not entirely sure. Of course, could have been played in the LMS last year, and I'd have no idea.
We watched the other regions, Atlas. It definitely was innovated by Amazing J. The joke I made is that he was kind of sad that by the end of the season, the Ignite was gone and the Smite had come in. So he had to debut something new, and it teleport Smite Fizz. I didn't think that would be one to catch on, but surprisingly, even Zatai, the first person to play that top Fizz against Maokai, that was the matchup that really showed us that top Fizz could get things done. Even Zatai moving towards the Smite.
Yeah, well, of course, Zatai, known for trying any new thing that does come his way, even making that Rek'Sai work as well in the top lane. So Name going to continue to farm this one out. Crystal holds that CS lead here on the bottom side, but doesn't exactly have the items to really do battle with Name in a face-to-face manner. But Yu is going to grab some wards down. A lot of vision available for King, though, so they'll know exactly where this Kassadin is, what he's going to be getting up to as he heads down this river.
Despite being 20 AD behind, of course, the result of the pickaxe against BF Sword purchase, Crystal does have some options in this lane. Sivir's all-in trades are very good, you know, between the Ricochet and the Boomerang Blade doing burst damage, and there's no sustain. No pots were able to be built with that BF Sword. No sustain coming through from Morgana. A burst trade that goes successfully for Crystal, who does have potions behind all his other purchases, could be a way to continue to get lane control. But honestly, just the threat is making Name play really on the back foot, picking up first blood in the lane and being 16 CS behind in what is a very good laning matchup for Lucian is really awkward for King.
It's very awkward. Of course, Name probably would have liked to have grabbed that kill for himself as Crystal is going to spell Shield a bind that's not going to land.
The lead's even bigger because you have to include the Relic Shield. So 88 to 65 is a huge lead coming through, especially after a kill. With Nunu gank pressure, you're not going to have those Nunu ganks be successful multiple times during a laning phase, most likely. So Huey's going to show again, but he's spotted by a ward.
Yeah, we'll see whether he can make it successful here. Of course, Snake have managed to pick up some extra vision along this river. But Crystal is going to get caught once more. This time, Name picks up the kill there with the culling. And you're exactly right to think that that shouldn't have been able to happen. But once again, Sync Dream grabs the bind and picks up the kill for his team.
Huey can't even pick up an assist, so it's just a straight 2v2 kill. Not sure what Crystal used that spell shield on. Huey's just channeling the ult to push this into the turret. Will they try the dragon? Sejuani's in the area. They know that a very important cooldown, the Absolute Zero, is down. But with multiple members, I think they'd be remiss not to at least try this dragon.
Yeah, of course, Crystal is level 7. On the Hunt was used in that last fight, though, and Dragon already down to half health. So I think you're right, Papa Smithy. I believe the King probably will be able to grab this one. Ward's down, though. You trying to be a menace. King lock down the Dragon. That's another bind there as Depth Touch comes through, but the ult from Beast is trying to get some work done, but they can't really follow up on it, missing the Sivir as Flandre makes his way in as well. He's got a decent Narbar. Cola trying to get peeled from Beast as well, but he holds onto his life and Cola's going to fall down. Korn forced to flash over this wall, and King, they're going to back away. They lose one member, but they pick up the Dragon.
Yeah, importantly, they pick up the Dragon. Beast lives on a sliver of health. I thought the teleport from Flandre was a bit late, but they still end up picking up the kill credits. So in the end, probably didn't want to have to use the teleport. I thought he'd get a bit of lane control if he stayed, but matches it. And they're going to try and get an objective because, of course, they've lost the objective trade here, Snake.
Yeah, Ella is going to copper binding there, but quite tanky. That Titan's Wrath as well as everything else. Turret going down to about half health as Flandre is about to go into Mega Gnar form. Just going to crush his way out of there. And Snake continuing this shove.
Not a lot of wave clear on the side of King. Only Azir really helps in the wave clear regard as Name was moving away from the mid lane. But enough wave clear, obviously. They get dissuaded. Only Crystal's doing turret damage himself. So the siege, not one of the strong points when you lock in that last pick, Kassadin. And everyone backs away. So overall, trade goes to King.
Yeah, and Crystal actually conceding this lane just a little bit. Picks up the Avarice Blade, wants some extra gold to be accruing just passively there on every one of his minion kills. But against an extra pickaxe here for Name, things are just going to continue to go from bad to worse in this bottom lane for Snake.
A BF sword versus pickaxe has turned into a BF sword pickaxe against just a pickaxe, as you mentioned, with the Avarice Blade. So all-in trades have already been consistently going King's way. Let's see if Name can actually get the zoning potential down that Crystal was able to do despite the AD disadvantage. Because if Name also gets zone control and can pick up a bit of a CS advantage to go with the early kills, that should really serve King well in the bottom lane.
Yeah, most definitely. Crystal at the moment doesn't have a support. As Snake looking to try and get something done here. There's the flash into the Glacial Prison as well. Never Move is going to come through, and Kohler trying to get out. The Ignite going to be ticking down. Permafrost was, in fact, what it was. Never Move. That's a Swain ability. The Sync Dream hanging out here in the bottom lane.
And those are not the sort of engages you can do traditionally against a Fizz, but top lane Fizz is different to mid lane Fizz in that you do not max the Playful Trickster first, much less able to get out with those cheeky outplays with the Playful Trickster when you've only got 1 or 2 points in it at level 8. So in this case, are able to lock down the Fizz. Not enough jumps to get away. But King are going to try and also get a lot of turret damage on, maybe even a dive.
Yeah, another Dark Binder come through here as Ella forced to use that flash to get away. The heal down from Crystal as well, who's completely out of mana. King, lots of pressure in this bottom side of the map, but Name very low as well. Azir was moving down, and Beast is making his way here as well. Flandre considering a visit. Crystal really wants to Spell Shield something right now.
But his Spell Shields have been letting him down. Even though we haven't been catching these kills, it doesn't feel like there's enough CC from the bottom lane to get a literal 2v2 kill. You should be able to Spell Shield one of the Morgana Ultimate or the Dark Binding, but those have been registering consistently, and that is why Crystal is really struggling in this lane.
Yeah, although Beast making his way in here as well as Sync Dream. He's going to flash forward into the Soul Shackles, but not going to quite get anything. The flash out of the way from Crystal is going to save his life as Flandre really wants some of his Naba. The flash forward, Crystal's going to fall as Name with a massive play. Korn making his way through here as well with the Emperor's Divide, also saving his own life. As these Sand Soldiers are attacking for quite a bit of damage now as the Athene's Unholy Grail is completed. And 3-3 now in kills. Snake ahead somehow in gold, but things looking great on the bottom side of the map. And with Name with a lead, that could be scary here for Snake fans.
We're so used to Snake games where all the gold is on Crystal. Crystal's on a hypercarry, picking up the gold, being the only real ace in the hole for his team. This game, he has all the deaths, and honestly, his laning has been super, super poor. Martin was playing earlier in the weekend. It felt like Crystal coming back to the lineup would be a big boon for this Snake lineup, but he's struggling, and honestly, he's presenting a problem. They have a scaling mid laner and a scaling jungler. You would not expect scaling from Crystal. You'd expect him to be winning lane quite comfortably, or at least matching the AD purchases.
Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, Flandre is just going to dive Name in the bottom lane.
Okay.
There's Mini now.
That happened.
Yeah, that did happen.
And remember, Flandre just walked bottom in all of this, so his teleport will still be up to match Kohler's.
Yeah. In fact, very, very even as far as that teleport cooldown is concerned, but also, he's accrued a 32 CS advantage by moving towards this bottom side of the map.
Looked like the freeze was on from Kohler, but you're right, he's been hoovering up minion waves. Crystal's moved to mid. Kassadin's ended up moving to top, so they're rotating with the CS. They're not missing many creeps to the turret, and that's why, despite only being a kill ahead in a turret, they're accruing a very decent goal at this point, and they're going for Korn.
Yeah, there's the depth charge to come through. Huey immediately gets interrupted from his ultimate. Korn trying to use an Emperor's Divide just to try and get everyone out of there. He's going to successfully disengage. Yu actually flashes into the Riftwalk there as well. Takes down Korn. Sync Dream now might be in trouble. Beast is going to lock down that kill. Yu's going to tank everything that King has to offer and fall down for it. Flandre teleporting into the backside of this fight, but Beast can't continue too much further as there are 3 wards in that Raptor brush.
A 2-for-1 trade coming through from Snake. So much aggression, reminiscent of OMG against World Elite in Game 1 of the last series yesterday. Turret diving with Reckless Abandon, but with Flandre with such smart Gnar mechanics. As you mentioned, 28 CS ahead, building for lane. The It's a scary thing because he's just going to be able to dominate the 1v1 matchup. And we said in the late game, split pushing, there was only real option that King had really picked for.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see whether they can make things work. Cola, he has managed to at least navigate the the 1v1 very well when it was a 1v1. But now that Flandre's moved around the map and started picking things up for himself, I don't know whether it's going to go the same way if they were to move back into that situation. The Spectre's Cow's now completed as well as the Hex Drinker and the Mercury's Treads. Flandre is going to be taking no magic damage. And I guess, I mean, the top lane Fizz not going to be aiming for that as much, but it's still going to do a whole lot of work.
I guess we have to keep adjusting our expectations of Fizz in different matchups. It was Fizz versus Aurelia, where we saw the Fizz really run over the Aurelia. But the unique factor about Aurelia is that to be relevant, you have to build that Trinity Force. Here, able to build combat stats as Flandre, but also lane-specific combat stats. It feels that now, the base damages, which are really Tank Fizz's big boon, of course, is having very nice percentage damage on that W especially, and decent base fails on his other skills, aren't going to be as relevant when you're entering lane with, what, 120 magic resist already?
Yeah. So Flandre really trying to build around this one. It's a little bit more for lane now with the Hex Drinker. We've seen him build things like the Randu and Zoman very early, aiming for that team fight Nah situation. But this time around, wants to get that little bit of extra combat ability with the Hex Drinker there, offering him some more damage and some more pressure in the lane.
Flandre's a really savvy top laner. He's been playing this role to a T. He was one of the most impressive players in the LPL spring, I believe, coming out 5th in the overall MVP rankings. Highest for a top lane as far as I remember, although Korra would have been running him very close. The thing is that he understands the situation and builds accordingly. He always adjusts his builds for the games he's in. We'll remember a game where he played Jarvan, ended up Jarvan top, lane swapped around the whole map, was 100 CS behind his opponent, but realized, okay, I'm going to stack armor and sit on the enemy Sivir, and still was very useful with just a modicum of gold. I think it was 3,000 gold behind his opponent. In this situation, he's understood, we have a better 5v5 team fight than King do. The only way we can lose is split pushing Fizz in the late game. I'm going to build to just dominate Fizz in lane. Team fights will go our way whatever I build. It's just smart adaptations, and it's the indication of a top laner.
Yeah, he's certainly doing things well, and has been throughout his entire career so far here in the LPL. Of course, Snake, newly entered into the LPL, of course, last split, came from that LSPL, very similar to the likes of UP and QG this time around. Sun Turret's going to fall down in the mid lane there as Korn tried to make a new one for himself with the bottom lane. This is where the action's on. Crystal pops the ultimate and just runs away from the King bottom lane. They understand now that they're not winning these trades.
It's Infinity Edge versus the parts of Infinity Edge, and the Avarice played for a bit of investment. Cola walks away and just manages to get out.
Yep, but may not necessarily be able to hold on to this inner turret in the top lane. Only a couple of creeps there as Korn does find his way around as well. Beast pretty tanky now with the Mercury's Treads. Little cheeky Ruby Crystal and the Cinderhulk.
Rotational play is not what I expect from a Sejuani comp. It's what the Nunu comp should be there to do. Blood Boil gives you attack speed and movement speed, so should help you in turret destruction. But so far, Snake being really smart at rotating around what is a weak laner in Cola, only has the Cinderhulk and the Ninja Tabi. Certainly hasn't either got the tank items or the carry items that he's going to eventually be building into, and really has to respect Flandre in all these trades.
Yeah, Flandre with a whole lot of Narbar as well to work with. Might need to be a little bit careful here, of course. Fizz with a whole lot of ways to get away from the CC that Nah has to offer. So not sure whether there'll be any dives necessarily, and without very much armor, it's probably not exactly the idea that you want to be going for here. Huey is going to pay a visit to the bottom side of the map, and Crystal's terrified. He doesn't want anything to do with these guys.
Snake in general are really happy with a long laning phase. It's the reason you don't see Flandre making lots of plays and moving around the map at this point. They just want to keep laning because they know that they outscale in terms of 5v5 in the late game, and they've already got the insurance of the very strong stacking magic resist Flandre in the top lane. So just keep laning. Wait till Crystal is on even keel with Lucian especially. Wait till Casson has the death cap, the offensive choice actually going to be picked up by you to go on with what is already a 6-minute Rod of Ages. So only 4 minutes till that item starts to really peak. It's around the 25-minute mark, or maybe going to be necessitated by the next dragon, but Snake's comp is scaling into the late game, and with the Cinderhulk and the Rod of Ages, things only get better as we go on for Snake.
Yeah, and I believe that's actually 8 stacks there on the Rod of Ages as well.
hard to tell on our monitor. 6-8, one of the two, but regardless, 25 minutes in this game, full power Cassidy in terms of the Rod of Ages.
He most certainly will be, and see whether that's going to be when Snake pulled the trigger, whether he's going to be able to pick up the Rabbidan's Death Cap at around the same time there for the ultra power spike, as we like to call it. You just going to use that Force Pulse on this minion wave as King are looking to try and push this one through. Ardent Blaze not going to really phase you whatsoever, as Beast is positioning himself for this Dragon in a minute. Crystal going to take down the outer turret in the bottom lane. Was just a matter of time before that one went down, but King really need to try and find some map pressure this game. The structures are all still standing, apart from the one in the bottom side here for Snake, and it's the mid lane turret that they need to aim for, of course. You don't need to tell that to a Chinese team generally, but it really does open the map, and it looks like they're getting shut out just a little bit now that the game's moved to a point where Snake are fairly comfortable with where their comp is at.
Just really worried for this King comp. The two things identified in Champ Select were rotational play to take down turrets with the Nunu. You know, make the most out of a champion like Nunu, who's very good at helping you take down structures and controlling neutrals. Not so good at really ganking lanes. Their neutral controls, look, they're even on Dragons. Next one spawns. They're not really in a position to contest it. They're behind in turrets. That's not something I accounted for when you have Cassidy in the laning phase and Lucian versus Sivir, which is a very good laning matchup for the Lucian. So their two overall win conditions aren't really there, and Snake are playing to theirs completely. They're stacking AP, they're going for greedy builds. A Cinderhulk and Rod of Ages are very standard, but they're still builds that don't give you much immediate power. You want to fight when the enemy team's weakest, so when the immediate power's not there, if you wait the 10 minutes for the Rod of Ages out, if you wait for the health purchases to complement that Cinderhulk, the scaling that Cinderhulk's going to provide, you're going to find so much extra power. And when this next Dragon fight happens, that power is going to be so close to being completed. So if King don't get it done now, I just can't see them waiting for a better timing in the late game, because it's only going to get worse.
Well, Beast not quite able to clear out that ward, because he does just pop a pink ward down there instead, and Snake really prepared for this Dragon. And you were talking about the fact that things might get out of control here on the side of King, and this next Dragon could be another foot towards that here for Snake, as another Sun turret is going to fall. And you positioning himself down here. Look at the aggressive vision from Snake. Nothing. Oh, the whiff, though, from Beast, as he does manage to slow everyone down here, creating a front line here for himself. Nice Emperor's Divide into the absolute zero there as well. Flandre does have the Mega Nut. 4 men into the wall. Beast as well with a whole lot of AoE. Look at Crystal tearing everyone apart. And the King lineup just melted. And look, if you can't hit the ultimate from Beast, trust Flandre to come in and get it done for you.
And 24 minutes, and if EDG has taught us anything, Atlas, it must be Baron time. Screw that second Dragon. That doesn't give you any 6 stats. All the stats are here, and they have the Hyper come through from Flandre for a bit of percentage damage. They don't have Crystal, so it's not going to be the fastest Baron ever, but there's no one alive to contest it.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about Flandre being a fantastic top laner. Let's watch it again.
So wait for the Gnar. That's the big turning point. I was watching Flandre before this fight started. He was in the Mega Gnar form as he came in. He was running out of timer, but the flash 4-man Gnar, only Fizz escaping it. And the Boomerang Blade itself did so much silly damage to the backline. 4 people instantly dead. Only Cola, the one member that did not get hit by that Gnar, survived. Man. King got owned in that fight.
He certainly did. Crystal would have been salivating. They were all lined up. The easiest boomerang of his life on all the stunned members of King. It was just a well-executed team fight at exactly the right time there for Snake. And now they've got a Baron. They just move towards the Dragon, pick up that one as well. And it looks like Snake really comfortable at this stage. 8,000 gold, almost out of nowhere.
And once Snake take out the outer ring of turrets, I think they're going to have all the aces, Atlas. They're going to specifically have the potential of the Gnar flank. If Gnar can flank in the back with that Gnar ultimate, to go along with the fact that you can now dive with Reckless Abandon, he's already uniquely able to just rift walk over the Emperor's Divide. He's actually gone for Zhonya's, given up on picking up the Death Cap, just to go for another dive option. Of course, the Stasis gives him enough time to pick up another charge of that rift walk and get out if needs be. Dive from the top lane, dive from the mid lane, Sejuani ultimate to start fights. All the aces with Snake, and King, it's going to be another loss, 7 in a row, but I don't like to profess games is over, but when they haven't been able to hit those win conditions we talked about, and no one's doing well, Name himself, it's another one of those games where his laning was fine. He actually picked up kills that I didn't expect, but he's behind in CS at this point because all the global problems have just come into his lane.
Yeah, and Snake are going to be able to clear out this pink ward here. Another Dark Binding is going to land here from Sync Dream, but not going to protect their ward, as Name will have to face check that in order to get it. in amongst it, so not going to do that one with all the members of Snake stealing away the red buff. Crystal going to lock that one down. Inner turret in the bottom lane. Now under fire from all of these Baroned up minions. Decent wave control in the top lane for Snake, but the mid lane seems to be going okay here for King. So the rotation towards the mid lane not exactly going to be an option, unless it's just going to be tanked by Beast, who does have 3,000 health and a fair bit of armor. By a fair bit, I mean he's got 1 cloth armor.
I think it's reasonable, though, that tanking turrets is an option. Massive minion wave pushing for Nahu. Just probably go pick up the red buff, or at least start it for Siva. The ping on the map suggests more. The starting route, a little bit less selfishness, but he's going to back away. You finds Cola, and Cola, with this build, just doesn't do anything. No.
He's almost got his Trinity Force, but may not have necessarily been the option that he should have been looking for here. I do like the Ninja Tabi, of course, synergizing with the Fizz passive.
But look, he doesn't do damage. He's not tanky. Unfortunately, he's not really even going to get in range to challenging smite anyone important.
Oh, actually, it's going to be Siva picking up Sync Dream, though, as Crystal locks down that kill. Huey wanted to do something, and Cola right in the backside of this one. Gets a couple of people with that playful trickster, but he's just going to fall down for it. Flandre, there's the double stun as Huey's going to get caught up by that, and he's heading in here at the same time. Able to get some damage down there, but Flandre does lock down the double kill for his team. And also grabs themselves the inner turret. Are they going to stop, though? This is the question. The Baron just wore out, but this inhibitor turret is going to fall. Only the 2 carries remaining from King, and they can't go anywhere near all of this CC.
The base is broken. 13,000 plus gold is the lead. 7 turrets to 1. It's not a perfect game. The kills and the dragons and 1 turret show that, but Snake in general understood their comp, played to their win conditions, and played very smartly. Crystal.
Oh, Crystal turns it around, picks up the 1v1 as he was casually backing. And, I mean, if you wanted a sign to show that this game's not going well for King, I think that's the perfect epitome.
That's the one where you rush into all chat and say, don't stop my back.
Yeah. Hey, man, I was shopping. Something like that.
He's going to have a bit of bonus gold. Apparently there's a 10% off sale because that extra 300 gold will get him closer to what is an extra BS sword on top of his
salesman, wasn't he? Saying, here, make sure that you have a sweet deal.
300
like
gold off your next BF sword.
Check out the catalog. There's a better deal for that one here.
The sad thing for Nami is the laning phase went really good for Sync Dream and Nami. We wondered if these 2 aggressive laners could get it done. They were getting solo kills. Okay, 2v2. But duo kills on the enemy duo laner.
Yeah.
They were the one lane that can hold their heads higher. I guess not too much real criticism to Korn either. He did fine, but Cola got so dominated, and Flandre, his teleport play, there's a reason we coined him. In fact, you coined him, Atlas, the Time Lord when it came to his use of things like Home Guard and Teleport. His vision around the map, his movement, 9 out of 15 is not the highest kill participation, but now he has the ultimate teamfight Gnar build. And Korn awkwardly, with this 28-minute Trinity Force, can't even split push against a full tank Gnar.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that on the Snake lineup, it's the 2 carries that should be staying safe and probably trying not to die, the only ones that have died on this team. The tank line has definitely been solid. 405, 308, and 0010 for Ella there on the Nautilus.
I guess King can hope that you will have a brain fade like the last time we saw him on Cassidy, diving the double turrets and losing a game against UP. I guess it's possible that things will go poorly for Snake, but he's so far ahead, and he has the Zhonya's death, Void Staff as well. It's just bonus items on the side of Snake. Basically, all the carries are one big item ahead of their counterpart.
Yeah, Flandre also now has that Phage available for himself. Might be building towards that Black Cleaver, just to augment the rest of all of his tanky stats that he now has picked up. Just wants some possible cooldown reduction, unless he just goes for a Trinity Force. I mean, that seems like a Flandre idea as well.
It's hard for them to close out the game because they have turret damage from Siva, but no real siege potential. Cassidy offers nothing apart from dive when it comes to taking turrets, so with the strong wave clear between Lucian and Azir, we kind of have to wait for these split pushes to occur. Yu joins, though, and they're going to at least break the base once again.
Yeah, they'll grab the bottom lane inhibitor turret here as Cola unable to defend from the 2 members of Snake. And Yu's just been owning this base, just wandering around like it's his own house.
There's just so much threat. He's got the death. He's got the Void Staff to go along with the Zhonya's. The dive potentials there. Cola, his build doesn't do anything because of the timings in particular. If you get a snowball Trinity Force on top of your Cinderhawk, absolutely. But when it's delayed, he's just watching and goes for the engage, but doesn't really achieve much.
Yeah, Flandre really wants that hyper proc. Does grab it. And he's going to be able to take down this inhibitor as well. As Flandre actually going to eat an entire culling as Ella is going to stand in the way with the Titans Wrath just to try and help him out there. And just auto-attack a couple of times, Snake, please.
Who, though? They don't have the range. They have to respect the Senso. It's the awkward thing about picking a lineup like this is they team fight well. No real impetus for King to team fight, so they buy themselves at least a few minutes to get as much gold as possible as the Super Minions crash into the King base. Awkwardly for them, Baron and Dragon both spawn, and they haven't been out of their base in ages to hope to have any vision around this very important objectives.
Yeah, they've got a couple of wards there towards their blue side of the map, but other than that, absolutely nothing. Maybe one in the pink in the mid lane, but that's just going to die here as Beast is going to pick up the third dragon for Snake.
Back cleaver's in.
Yeah, he's managed to grab it, so able to throw out a whole lot more of these abilities more quickly. Of course, that Boomerang already on a relatively low cooldown if you manage to grab it, but he's going to be very, very happy. And of course, being able to throw more boulders in Mega Gnar form, that's the big deal.
It just makes you completely unreasonable to 1v1 in any sort of a split push situation. You catch whenever you catch the Boomerang, it's available again. It feels like release now because, of course, a lot of the nerfs were targeted around gating his Boomerang throws around levels. I believe it's levels 1. It's when he levels his ultimate that he gets more of that cooldown refresh mechanic. Well, just an extra flat 20% cooldown reduction that builds so well into his natural tanky build. He catches, he has basically permanent CC. The Phage proc, the Rage proc even, allows him to just hit that next auto attack, and it's just, there's nothing you can do once the first Boomerang registers.
No. And also there's the fact that Crystal has a full Bloodthirster up on Name here as well. So they're just going to be able to take down the Baron. Pretty textbook stuff here from Snake, as then they're going to be able to run through these open lanes, grab the 2 inhibitors that are available to them, and possibly end this game. That is theoretically what will happen on paper. Snake have been known to play some baseball on the Rift before. We'll see whether that's going to happen again, but I have a feeling they have this game well and truly under control.
Absolutely. And now, what was already a hard lane to deal with, now the Baron buff minions show that King have more things to be concerned about. Snake have to go for this split pushing style again because of their poor siege, so it adds, what, 5 to 8 minutes on a game that was realistically done by 25 minutes. So unfortunately, we get this kind of
circling the drain.
There's not much, exactly. There's not really a crescendo of excitement. As you mentioned, it's the opposite. It's a bit more circling
only
the
Sync
drain.
Dream was here.
King.
He could have given us a crescendo.
Right,
yeah, well, if he was here on his signature champion with his signature
he never gets to play that anymore. The only Sona we saw subsequent to that Archangel Sheen Sona was Cloud.
Yeah.
He played it pretty well.
He did, but he didn't build the build, as it were. They are going to be able to take down both of these inhibitors. Wave of minions, sorry, crashing into the top lane here as well. And King, we'll see whether they are able to defend that one out. Super Creep still yet to return to the base. As Beast just casually strolling over here. Crystal very, very aggressive. Pops the heal there as well. He's doing so much damage on this Sivir. No one wanting to go anywhere near him. On the Hunt was used, now is on cooldown, but they'll take another inhibitor for it and just wait for these minions to decimate the base. Is going to use the Zhonya's Hourglass. Name able to dash out of the way here as well. Emperor's Divide to try and secure some sort of safety here, but he is going to fall down. Korn dies, and Kohler, he's going to follow as well. Urchin Strike not going to help him. And with these Baroned up minions, Snake are going to be able to take down the base.
Snake finally find an angle to finish the game comfortably. They really want to get bonus kills hooked into the summoning portal. Probably not the smartest thing to do.
No, that dredge line was not exactly what Ella was hoping for, but did finish the game on 0-0-12. A brilliant performance. All of the tanks remaining immortal for Snake. And I just can't help but think that that was just a case of having a better team comp.
I think it was the better team comp. We did like it when we were talking about it in Champions Set. We mentioned there was only a couple of windows for King to exploit, and they certainly didn't. They didn't rotate around turrets, only picked up 1 the whole game. Didn't manage to control neutrals, which of course Nunu is so uniquely able to do. Snake in general played well, but I want to say one thing. I want to temper my excitement about Snake because their top side of the map played wonderful. Their solo lanes and their jungler rotated very smartly. But remember, Crystal was randomly dying in lane